I really don't know why that bothers you so much. We're supposed to be on the same side, right? You live in a massive estate up in Sector 1 and have a small private army and money and power. I'm just some lowly schmuck. So why does the brain thing bother you? Vincent said with a grin. The academics had given Mach something to help him wake up and were busy combing through the data they'd gained from the experiment. So, Mach and Vincent had moved upstairs to a private room to talk. It was more of what he expected from the main mansion. Big leather chairs, a library, old paintings. First of all, what's a schmuck? Mach asked as he crossed his arms. A general term for some common guy, but more in the sense that it's someone who isn't smart enough to stuff. Negative connotations, usually. Like if someone's trying to get you to do something dumb, you could ask if they think you're a schmuck. It's hard to explain. A schmuck is a schmuck, you know. No, I don't, Mock said dryly. As for the brain thing, it's just... Dragons are the paragons of the Union. We're supposed to be the best. We founded it and held it together in those early days. Now you come along and supposedly have the most complicated brains our academics have ever seen. I suppose it's just... You're the first threat to our superiority. It worries me a little. The dragon shrugged his broad shoulders and wings. What? From what I can tell, you've treated all your, employees with respect and in general seem like a good guy. Why does superiority matter? Vincent said as he arched a brow. I don't know. I'm just not used to, not being the best. He was much larger than Vincent, and as Vincent had noted, Mach was a very powerful person at that, which is why Vincent had to laugh when Mach looked so dejected. Is that it? You've got to be kidding me. Complex doesn't mean better. Simmer down, you big baby. Vincent chuckled and shook his head. Seriously, you're letting something insignificant get to you. Maybe when we find my home and my people are Union citizens, you can worry. But don't forget I'm not even considered a person by the AI. Mach nodded at that. You're right, it's just... It hasn't come up much, but I'm extremely competitive. Most dragons are. I believe it. But you don't have to worry about that with me. Vincent began to check points off his fingers. I die all the time. I live in a government-appointed apartment. I have a drug habit. I don't have an evil sky fortress with my own private army. Mach glared at Vincent. That's basically all stuff you've already said. But I do get your point. It's just... He waved a hand dismissively and sighed as he seemed to relax. I'll get over it. I know it isn't proper for me to get worked up over something like this, especially since I consider you a friend and an ally. I don't mean to appear distressed over this. Ignore my aberrant behavior. Vincent chuckled and nodded. It's fine, Ma. I get it. You're not used to any other species coming close to yours in any way. You mean to treat everyone equal and all that, but this is new for you. That's that thing, where what you believe consciously and what your subconscious thinks don't line up. Something. Cognitive dissonance. Yeah, there you go. You know, for a creature with an inferior brain, you sure have a way with them words and such. Vincent gave Mach his biggest shit-eating grin as the dragon stared down at him. Finally, Mach growled out. I'll challenge you to arm wrestling, or actual wrestling. You and me, little man. I'll show you who's superior. Vincent just started laughing once more, entirely amused by finding a way to get under Mach's skin. Scales? Or skin still work, right? Either way, Vincent's chuckling eased off, and Mach sighed. Is there a point to getting me riled up? I haven't been able to do it before. There's some sort of instinct in my people to see how easily we can piss off creatures that are larger than us. I don't know. Vincent shrugged. Mach was shaking his head as he spoke. Maybe I don't have to worry about your species then. Maybe you'll all get eaten by the first planet you find that contains a world shark. That certainly caught Vincent's attention. World shark? As far as we can tell, they're another leftover of the builders. Some planets have massive creatures that fly through the sky. They're often the size of large islands. They support small and exotic biosphere and ecosystems. I suppose a more accurate term would be to call them massive flying sharks covered in life. But the first of our kind to discover them was a bit of a poet. She thought it sounded more dramatic. Mock seemed to savor the word. It's also a lot less to say, but this raises several questions for me. Builders? Vincent asked. It appears there was once an incredibly advanced species that used to inhabit the galaxy. They seem to take an interest in building and studying various things. We have very little left of them. The world sharks are one such leftover. And they're dangerous. The builders or the world sharks? Well, I guess both options are valid. The world sharks are only dangerous if you try to stop them, or interfere with the ecosystems they carry. The builders left behind some things that are dangerous, but overall it seems to me like they were very peaceful. We don't have much evidence of fighting or war or the like. Their dangerous devices seem to be more scientific in nature. Vincent groaned out. Of course they were peaceful. And how come the person who named the world sharks didn't name the builders? The builders? How boring. Why not the precursors or forerunners or even the ascendant? Some kind of name that sounds good. The builders. Oh, let me investigate them with the patrol. Oh, there's been an issue I need to report to my senior team lead. I swear no one in the Union knows how to give things good names. Mock stared at Vincent, who had taken a seat in one of the spare armchairs, and was staring at the ceiling until Mock finally spoke again. Are you done? Everything is sector number, hab number, blah, blah, blah. The only neighborhood I've heard of with a different name is Little Otterstov. There was a long pause. Okay, I'm done. Mock sighed and began to speak. Well, first of all, the Union is made up of dozens of cultures. You know the best method for ensuring no one argues about a name? Make it as simple and descriptive of whatever it represents as possible. Oh. The city, the Union, the hierarchy, the builders, the patrol. That starts to make sense. What about what you and your main squeeze were talking about, the Senate? Mock stared rather intently at Vincent. My main squeeze? Yes. Vincent didn't back down from his term. The two of them stared at each other for several seconds before Mock finally gave in. Minva. Minva and I were referring to the Draconic Senate. The Urvesh might be fine with the military council, but dragons are never going to allow something so powerful being managed by so few. We have an elected Senate, every member of which is an expert in some field. She was Chief Tomb Raider. So what are you? Chief Eavesdropper? Mock stared at Vincent with a mixture of anger, annoyance, and simple confusion. Have I done something to earn such irreverence? Vincent laughed. Hey, now that I know you can get annoyed and the like, I figure it's time to relax. That's just how He was so relaxed he didn't catch it before he was doubling forward off the chair and puking blood on the hardwood floors. Mock stepped back and said, And now you're puking blood all over my beautiful floors. Wonderful. Vincent gasped for a breath then, clutching his stomach before falling over onto his side, thankfully not landing in the blood. Mock sighed and Vincent heard him before speaking again. Yes, and a cleaning crew. What? No, I didn't kill him. He just got sick on the floor. Oh, and bring some water and perhaps a burnt toast. Vincent slowly pushed himself back up and spat out the last strings of blood before wiping off his mouth and collapsing back in the chair. He didn't have the energy to make any sort of smart comment or the like, and just waited until a few satyr walked into the room. Unlike the security detail with silver armor, these were maids in plain clothes. They quickly cleaned up the blood and one handed him a wet towel, so he could wipe away the blood seeping out of his nose and eyes. Once everything was clean, they handed him a large bottle of water and a small plate of black toast. Vincent stared at the water and the toast for a moment. Did they just have this sitting around? The water, certainly. But the burnt toast? No. Mock said and watched Vincent nibble a bit of the toast and drink the water to clear the taste of his own blood from his throat. Have you found out all the things that trigger that reaction? Probably not, Vincent muttered as he chewed on the crunchy burnt bread, feeling a little better as he did. My race, my planet name, some other things. I don't go looking for them. Mock nodded. Well, now that you've been taught a lesson for being so rude, Vincent glared at the dragon. Yes, I am the chief eavesdropper. I have a much nicer title, of course, but I'm sure you understand what I do better than most. I thought you said you like to study sociology, psychology, stuff like that. Mock nodded before Vincent continued. Right. They make it easier for you to understand how to manipulate people and turn them into spies. All right. Well, how come you didn't warn me about the preacher? Why not tell the Urvesh where to find him? Or me? Ah, well, this might surprise you, but I never thought that spying on the poor citizens down in the lower sectors would pay off. I spy on the rich and powerful. All right. Well, how did you completely miss the wardens until Minerva mentioned it? Who? Mock asked, before he realized the mistake. Minva. Minva. Vincent shrugged. Mock rubbed his chin and thought. I wish I could say for sure. It's terrible for a spy master to have a blind spot after all. I suspect I wasn't looking in the right places. After all, their history is steeped in rumor, myth, and paranoia, not to mention religious nonsense, so I never thought to check in the places such people might congregate. I spy on those that seem to be obviously powerful or wealthy, or have aspirations for those things. While I knew there was more to crime than the Urvesh understood, I also underestimated their ability to organize. You were busy spying on people who seemed obvious. Other power brokers, the Urvesh, I'm guessing industrialists and probably the Analysis Bureau. So when some strange cult started making moves, you weren't looking at scholars and religious types. Vincent filled in. Mock nodded. A fair assessment. I've been trying to make up for lost time, but I'm simply not going to have much luck with the lower sectors. Credit by people, but not reliable people. Vincent nodded. A true enough sentiment, really. So, explain it to me then. What's the history? Mock sighed. When the lost expedition was discovered, and we found the writings of the wardens. Whoa, wait, back up. What? Expedition? Writings? Vincent interrupted. Mock chuckled a little and shook his head. Sorry. Okay, further back. This was the first system my people suspected held a planet that could sustain life. This one? No, Oh, you don't even know about the other planet, do you? Clearly I don't. There are two important planets on this system. This one is smaller and held a few builder artifacts. More on those in a bit. The other was a lush garden world, and had some form of nearly every biome we could desire, and has become an incredibly efficient agricultural world in the Union. All the food that comes here to the city is grown there, and for several other systems. Let me guess, you guys call it the breadbasket. Mock frowned at that and looked confused. What? Breadbasket? No. What's a breadbasket? A basket made of bread? No, it's... Vincent thought it over. I guess it's a basket filled with bread. My people use that term to refer to places that grow lots of food usually. I'm not sure why, now that I think about it. But sorry, continue. Anyway, that's the farm. Mock began to continue. We sent our absolute best and brightest to reach this system on a colony ship that was slower than light. They were to establish a colony and prepare for more to come. Well, about 100 years after they got here, the second ship arrived. They found an abandoned colony and no colonists. Were they attacked? Always his first thought. No, they had somehow discovered the Builder ruins here and rushed over. Then they went mad for some reason. Mock continued. That sounds promising, Vincent muttered. They wrote down almost nothing. Instead, they built the AI. Their leader, while dying of radiation sickness, we think, did write some things, however. It was basically what led us to form the Union. It was a prophecy of sorts about the Builders intending for us to be the chosen to unite all species in peace and democracy. The AI was to help us in this by being non-biased and incredibly powerful. It's unclear if the Lost Expedition made the AI or the Builders. But where do the Wardens come in? The writings, as I mentioned before, were a bit shaky. They weren't express or totally clear. And so the Wardens have a different interpretation. Vincent felt like this was all too familiar a tale. That we are to be the Wardens, to bring all species under our control and rule them, while making sure none can escape the return of the Builders, who will then judge us all. Mock shrugged. This argument was the basis of the last war of just our people. The Wardens lost. Most people believe the Builders were tinkerers and advanced, but peaceful people. The thought that they would violently cleanse the unworthy doesn't fit. But the idea that dragons are meant to have all the power. Vincent trailed off, before Mock nodded and finished the thought. Is very addictive to some, yes, which is why it seems they've resurfaced. And I have something to do with it. Vincent nodded, but Mock actually shrugged. It could just be chance. A new species with odd characteristics useful in their religious quest to take over the Union for themselves. I don't mean me being found was prophecy. I just mean this is all happening because I was found. Or the worm ship, at least. Oh, yes, right. Mock nodded. Sorry, I misunderstood your meaning for a moment there. So, the Builder ruins on this planet. What do they do? Vincent wished this was stuff he'd known before. They make the city possible. Massive structures that stretch up thousands of feet into the air. You think this is possible normally? Well, no. But the Union is a nation that spans solar systems. I figured you guys have some technology I've never dreamed of. Vincent shrugged. Mock thought it over and nodded. Fair enough, I suppose. But not all of it is us. There are some extremely powerful devices on this planet, closely guarded in secret locations. They do a few things. They normalize gravity up until the upper atmosphere. Wouldn't gravity normally be close from the surface to the upper atmosphere? We're really getting into territory that I really don't understand. Vincent had left school well before this sort of topic would have been covered in any depth. This planet is tiny compared to most that support any atmosphere, but has a gravity equal to much larger planets. A gravity that most species find comfortable, or at least tolerable. Oh. Vincent nodded slowly. What else? We're above the clouds, but can still breathe. Mock mentioned, before Vincent laughed. Shit, why didn't I think about that? Is that a pressure thing? Yes, that's another device. The air is kept mostly uniform across the planet, and pressurized to the extent that it's easily breathable. Besides that is the location of the AI itself, and some other things not pertinent to our discussion. Vincent arched a brow at the last part. Don't trust me? Mock shrugged. Symbol of justice, law, and authority or not, there are some things you're not cleared to know about yet. Vincent chuckled. Well, at least you're honest. Anything else you feel like telling me about? Mock thought it over and shrugged. I'm not sure what else you need to know. I'm trying to find the preacher, just like you. Now you know a bit more about the Wardens. The love of my life, Minva, is now known to you. Right, Minva. So she researches the Builders? Yes. But you don't think she's with the Wardens? Never. Why not? Vincent watched the dragon start, and then stopped talking a few times before finally sitting down across from Vincent. The dragon rubbed his chin for a bit. I just don't. She's not violent. She doesn't believe we need to violently take power. She mentioned something about keeping me pure. Ah, Mock nodded. She feels that you might be sent by the builders, and that trying to open you up to the cultures of the Union is a mistake. That you need to be pure to your own heritage, and perhaps that of the builders. She thinks I was sent here by them, huh? I'm the solution to something? Vincent tried to remember all he'd heard the warden say. Maybe. Mock shrugged once more. She thinks there's a chance you were sent here by them, as I mentioned, to help us keep the Union together. You are to the builders what the satyr are to us, perhaps. Vincent laughed at the thought. Oh, man, they chose the wrong people, if that's the case. We revere nothing. We fight all the time. We argue about gods constantly. We hate following orders. He shook his head and then looked at Mock. Which is why you know I'm not. Mock nodded. However, I do know that you're an amazing resource according to the AI. Right. The AI that runs everything. So if I'm important to the AI, there's a way to manipulate it through me, which is why I'm important to you. Mock started to talk, but Vincent held up a hand. I don't think you're trying to manipulate me like that. Like you said, you want me to know more about the Union, and you want me to be a symbol for mostly good things. Mock nodded. They sat there for a while in silence, each thinking over what they'd learned before Mock spoke up. Hold on. How do you know about the wardens? Vincent blinked. What? They were in your memories. Yes, but we said almost nothing about them. You immediately knew they were the organization behind all this. Mock leaned forward, staring at Vincent, who blinked and then sighed. Latero was working for them. I found a recording the council didn't discover. He was about to betray the wardens and confess when they killed him. Mock blinked in surprise and rubbed his chin. Latero? I thought he might be getting too close and was removed. Not that he was one of them. The dragon scowled at that. I hate being so much further behind where I thought. That makes both of us. Mock growled for a moment. And then the security checkpoint bomb, apparently. Yes, you heard? Mock nodded at that, and tilted his head towards the door. I was informed while they cleaned up your blood. What? I don't remember them saying anything. Vincent tried to think back on the satyr maids while Mock grinned. They didn't say anything, but they did hand me the information, he said, brandishing a small datapad. His grin quickly faded, however, as he looked at it. 6 dead. Just 6? Mock arched a brow as Vincent said that. That's good, I mean. But I'm just surprised. That checkpoint was packed. It's like they just used some raw explosive. Zerny and I spoke about this a little. No shrapnel or fragmentation material to make it worse. Since I was out in the open, the concussive force dissipated rapidly. Not a great people killer. You speak from experience? Sort of. I'm descended from what we call freedom fighters, but our enemy called terrorists. Mock arched a brow once more. I can't get into it without puking blood, but basically some people wanted to rule as monarchs and had powerful nations. Other people wanted democracy. Those were my people. We won. Mock nodded. Well, yes, but it's still going to send Sector 1 into hysterics. Security up here is paramount. Speaking of, I think they'll realize I was at the checkpoint. Can't they just look at the cameras and stuff? Mock shook his head. The entrance to the lifts and checkpoints isn't monitored on camera. What? Why not? Vincent was shocked to hear that. Because those lifts lead everywhere. The public terminal in Sector 1 is monitored so you can see the people coming in and out of the public station. Vincent nodded and filled in. That way you can watch the workers and such, but people who don't want everyone seeing who they invited up in private are still covered. I'm guessing the lifts have operation logs, though. Which are being changed as we speak to fit your story. Mock shrugged, and Vincent didn't bother commenting on it. The spymaster most certainly would have connections to do that. Well, what else is there to discuss? Vincent tried to think about any other questions he had. He wasn't sure how long until the next time he'd get to see Mock and start filling in the blanks about the Union and how it operated. The explosion will drive up talks about increasing Yurvesh presence in the lower sectors, along with harsher security measures in between here and there. The gray market on level 30 is essential to continued coexistence between the lower and upper sectors. Only direct intervention from the highest levels keeps the Yurvesh from cracking down on it hard. I'll try to fight it, but that's likely one place that will be considered for more law enforcement. I might slow the passing of new laws and the like, but the best thing to do will be to catch the preacher. Are you on that? Mock asked. Vincent nodded quickly. That fucker has to go. You give me a location or name of a possible source, and I'll be on it in no time. The dragon was obviously satisfied with the answer, as he nodded and stood up. Then we need to get that other black box for you to view, and then we'll see what to do after that. Hopefully it'll answer some more questions. We can only hope. Vincent agreed as he stood up. Then he paused. I'm still curious. Are there any pictures of World Shark around here? Mock laughed and nodded, waving for Vincent to follow him out of the room, and down to the hall to a room filled with pictures and information about various creatures he'd never seen before. It seemed to be something like a hunter's trophy room, but with pictures instead of actual bodies or trophies. When Mock pointed to the largest picture in the room on one wall, Vincent whistled. Fuck, that looks huge. He examined the picture then of what he figured had to be the world sharks he spoke of. They seemed to be utterly massive creatures, just as described. They looked to him like the sharks back on Earth, but made out of rocks and grass, and somehow flying above clouds. There were other, smaller ones near the biggest, most detailed one in the center. They just looked huge based on their positioning, but he didn't have a good scale for their size yet. Mock pointed to what looked like a small bird flying out of the shark's mouth. That's a heavy cargo craft. No way. Shit! The scale of the creature got even larger, as Vincent stepped back and appraised the idea of a creature like this. Is this the biggest? No, average really for an alpha. Mock smiled as he looked up at the picture, while Vincent began to ponder. If that was waiting for humans on some planets, they really might get eaten alive. Then again, if the builders could make something like that, what else did they have lying around for the wardens to use against them? He didn't like the notion one bit.